Hello everyone. All right, let's get this going. All right, so in a moment, I'm sure you can tell from the title that we've got some exciting stuff going on today, a little different from the usual, but I'm super excited about it. We're going to be doing a stream with HashtagChess and Anna-Maja, and we're going to be doing Bughouse. They're preparing for the Bughouse Championship coming up. They've got a match tomorrow. They're doing the under 2000 sort of section, and I'm going to be sort of their coach today, I guess. I'm going to be watching them play some games, giving them pointers, a bit of a crash course feel to it. It's going to be fun, so if that sounds like something you are interested in, stay tuned. They're going to be joining a call with me pretty soon. I don't think we're going to be listening to what they say during games. Sometimes we might be able to. Like, we're going to do different types where we do games with viewers if we have time, where I'll be able to hear what they're sort of communicating with each other. But otherwise, I'll be sort of just analyzing while they play, and then we'll all be in a call after the games to discuss what happened. So yeah, it's going to be pretty fun. Hey Chuck, hey Ulan, hello everyone in the chat. Nice to see you guys. I think they're just getting ready, so hold tight. We can pull up some Bughouse games in the meanwhile. You can just watch. And yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. I'm excited. How are you guys doing today? Happy New Year, by the way. Oh my gosh, it's 8 days past big old 2022, right? This year, I've got a good feeling about it. It's gonna be a good year, guys. Good vibes. Alright, I think they're ready, so let me close this game because it is so loud. Oh my gosh, let's turn the volume down a little bit. The clicking is like louder than my thoughts, which is pretty impressive. I think a lot. Alright, I don't think it's going to auto-follow them. I'm not sure how the whole auto-following works, but hopefully we can figure that out as we go. To make sure that we're following the right games and not just watching random people that we don't know. Oh my gosh, alright. Let's see if I can get in the call with them. Give me 1 second. I might mute just for a second, just to make sure that they're ready to be like on stream. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna switch out of this, and then I'll be right back when they're in the call.
Talking nonsense.
Okay, I'm unmuting now then. Alright, awesome. Alright, we are now live.
Awesome.
Hello.
Okay, so shall we do quick introductions for people who don't know? I've been like talking up
Oh yeah.
Grace and Anna-Maja while I've been live already. But I don't know, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Oh, sure.
Maybe?
Yeah, sure.
You want to go first?
So yeah, me and Rebecca, we are playing in the Bughouse World Championship in the category under 2000. We well, I'm kind of like talking in like we perspective, but okay, I'll talk a little bit about myself first. So my name is Anna-Maja. I'm a Dutch chess player from the streaming since February 2020. So it's been a while. I recently picked up Bughouse as we're participating in this championship, and I've been really enjoying it. But hey, it's really difficult, and I feel like I lack a lot of like basic skills because I feel like we can outplay our opponents if we know what to do. So yeah, really looking forward to what Helm's Knight is gonna teach us here.
Yeah, I'm Helm's Knight. My name is also Grace, in case you guys don't know, because I guess that's sort of not you guys, but the chat, because I actually don't actually say my name that often. But yeah, I'm a Bughouse player. I do chess sometimes, but I've mostly streamed Bughouse for the majority of when I started streaming. And I've just been playing it since I was 11 years old, so it's been just, crazy. I've been trying to get better at chess as well, but mainly focused on Bughouse, so that's why I'm better at that game, and I'm here to help. I'm hoping that we can definitely go over some games here and find some cool tips and tricks to show you.
Awesome.
And then I'm Rebecca. I'm quite bad at all of the problems Anna-Maja says she has with Bughouse. I have that with chess as well. But we've been having fun with the Bughouse. So Bughouse, yeah, trying to improve. And as I have said, I blended my queen a lot. But yeah, South African chess player. I think I'm probably worse than both of you in normal chess as well. But I've been trying to work on my tactics a little bit. We're doing some warm up before. And I told my chat as well, I had some carrots before we started the stream because vision and board vision. I feel like it has to work that way.
Yes, rule number one in Bughouse. Have a lot of carrots before you play.
Yeah, so this is what that's basically me.
Awesome.
We're a great team though.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. Anna-Maja is an awesome Bughouse partner, so I think
stop
think
it. Oh, speak for yourself.
And I think Grace is just amazing at Bughouse. So I'm also really excited to see what we can learn today.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be great. So I guess we're gonna start off with just sort of a few really like basic, I guess, things to keep in mind. Because with Bughouse, it's like chess. You do a lot and you learn a lot through experience and analysis, right? It's kind of hard just to, I guess, like, I don't know, throw a bunch of information at you and be like, remember all this all the time, and here's every line you must memorize and all the patterns. So what's kind of interesting about Bughouse, one thing that I will say, is that it's a lot of just remembering patterns. So it's a little less theory-based, as much, like, you should be more focused on, I guess, remembering certain attacks and then, like, certain ways of defending them and then applying them in multiple different positions. Like, it'll make a lot more sense when we can go over specific examples. But I guess the main things just to keep in mind that go beyond even needing examples is it's a very initiative-based game, so very heavy on attacking. Very time sensitive. You got to be faster than your opponents. That helps a lot with your defense and getting those attacks. Communication, super key. Just working together, and yeah, that's sort of just the main things I guess we'll sort of focus on and go more in depth with as we sort of watch your games.
Awesome. Is there anything you can like advise against? Is there any like big like thing that people think are good when they start out with Bughouse and they just like really aren't good?
Sack sitting, I guess. Like sack sitting, I'm sure you've heard the term, right? When you just like throw your pieces to try and get an attack, like you sack a bishop for a pawn on like f2 or f7 to try and get the king out. Like it can be really good if you do it well, or it could go really badly and you could just waste all your pieces. And then it's sort of really important to know how to defend against it too. So I guess just making sure you don't get, I guess, too... The biggest mistake that I had made when I first started playing was I just sacked too much. Like, I just became really comfortable with it, and I didn't know how to play without needing pieces. So I guess just making sure that you can play without needing, like, 100 things all the time to stay safe, and not needing to depend too much on material in order to make an attack sometimes. I guess that's just, like, a good tip. Because sack sitting is, like, a thing that you get at all levels, low and high. I guess that would be my little tip there.
Okay, great. I assume you'll be able to tell us after the games as well.
It'll make way more sense when we have it on the board, for sure.
Okay, great. I don't know if you guys, have you explained to your chats what we're gonna do, or should we explain that quickly?
I've explained, but you can go ahead if you want to give a little recap.
Okay. So I think what we're gonna start off with is Anna-Maja and I are going to be playing games against the pool. Or again, so they're not always that many people seeking. So if you just want to partner up and just head into the pool, maybe you get paired against us. But so we'll be playing against the pool and talking to each other, because obviously communication is important. And then Helm's Knight will be doing commentary of the game, so you won't necessarily be hearing what we're saying. Although I think you might be able to, like, unmute us if you want to. You might hear some nonsense though, so it's probably best
Yeah, I
to
was
just do
saying-
your commentary.
If we have time, we'll do like games against viewers where where you guys, because I don't want people to think, oh, they're cheating, oh my gosh, telling them all the
Yes.
moves, like sort of thing. If I hear them what they're saying, but like later if we do against
Yes.
viewers, then you guys know we're gonna be talking a little bit, and it's not gonna be a shock.
Yes,
Right.
and then after the games, we'll just all jump on we'll all chat again, and then see what went well, what went badly.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Yeah.
And are we in a squad stream at the moment?
Oh, true.
I actually just want to
Let's
update my
set that.
title.
think
Completely forgot
so.
about that already. My bad.
And Maya, I think I'm already squatted with you.
Oh,
So then
sorry,
maybe
still
you can
squad.
just maybe you can just add or send an invite to Helmsite.
Let's have a look. Oh, we're still in the squad.
Yeah, I tried to start a squad and then I saw we were there already. So I felt very happy to find out that I was just part of a squad already. I felt very cool.
It's all meant to be. Okay, I have sent an invite.
All right, I think I accepted it. We should be good. I hope so.
Nice.
All right.
I'm just gonna mute myself quickly while I do some aggressive typing to update my title, and then I'll be good to go.
I'm just muting myself on the Discord. Okay, yeah. See, you guys know me. I'm not old, but like the way I use technology would make you think I am. But I like use Skype still sometimes. So like this whole Discord thing, I'm like, oh gosh, how do I deafen? Oh gosh, I had to like quickly like look it up.
Okay, I'm ready
before the
to
stream.
start. I'm not sure. Grace, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, are you able to deafen?
Yes, I
Would that work, or
looked
should
it
we
up
start
and I
anew?
know how to do it. I was just telling my
Okay,
chat how I'm
great.
just like a Discord noob.
No, it takes some time. We've played Among Us, so we're used to the deafening
Ah, yes.
aspect. Okay, cool. Great. Well, we'll partner up and
All right, let me just
Then
make
I'll
sure
tell.
that I can find you guys before I deafen
That's a-
because
yes.
that's like step one. Make sure I'm spectating the game.
Right.
I guess the easiest way would be you guys just start a game and then I'll find you in the little list and I can follow you from there.
Yes. Anna-Maja's account is probably the easiest to find because she's
Yeah, it's
just
the same
Anna-Maja.
username. Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
#Chess Twitch.
All right. Let me see.
I always forget how to partner up though.
I'm gonna step one. I'm gonna try and add you both.
Oh, that would make it easier.
That would be
yes.
maybe even easier. Alrighty. Alright, I sent you
Can
both
you guys
friend
let me know as well?
requests. There we go.
Okay, great. I should have accepted the request.
Oh, here. Yeah, got it.
Oh, thank you, Chuck, so much for the sub.
Okay, and then I'm gonna send you the pairing thing, I think. Yes.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. we'll just say the first couple of games are a little bit of a warm up.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be better? So there's a big rating difference between the two of us, Grace. So should we go for Anna-Maja seeking, in which case we'll get people who are like 2,000-ish, or should we
Sure.
go for me seeking,
Let's-
where we get like 1,300-ish?
Let's
Which
try
one's better?
let's try the harder opponents first. Let's see how that goes.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, I'll start the queue then.
Okay, perfect.
I'm just gonna make sure I deafen at the right time, chat. Oh my gosh.
Whew, okay.
Smooth technology.
How are you feeling? When last did you play Bughouse, Anna-Maja?
Alright, I think now is the time to deafen, but I could be wrong. I don't see the game that just started, if there was one. Okay, I should be now following them. Bear with me, guys. This is so much technology so fast. Alright, I am following, yes. Cool. Alright, I am muted, I am deafened, I am in the correct place to be, I suppose, is one way you could put it. Let's see. Now we're just waiting to see when they get a game. I'm going to check the pool. So there are people online that are around 1,900, 2,000 playing, so it shouldn't be too hard for them to find an opponent. Fingers crossed, right? I'm going to read chat a little until we wait for the game to start. So yeah, thank you to all the new people following. I super appreciate that. I do stream chess a few times a month. That's what we're aiming for the good old 2022. Geez, gosh. Losing track of time already. New year. But yeah, I do a bunch of different stuff on this channel, I guess you could say. But I do chess. So if you like chess and Bughouse and all that stuff, there will be some of that on this channel every month. I don't know how Okay, I just want to make sure that they're not in a game and I'm just not watching. That would be... Oh, there we go. Okay, that would have been really awkward. Just misses the whole game. Alright, so we're going to be watching from HashtagChess's perspective here. And then her partner is just on the right for you guys, so you can see both boards. Alright, so we've got good old e4, e5. Very classic Bughouse opening. Yeah, we're going to be... Because they're both... mainly playing chess, right? I'm trying to see what openings they're playing too to see if they're quite safe. One thing I'm noticing is they're moving a little slowly, but it could just be that they're just like starting up in the game. Not a huge deal. We'll see if it continues, if it like speeds up a little bit, because like I said, time is everything. You want to be up as much time as possible. They're already up time. They're up 10 seconds, so that's big. That's actually huge. Like, at the top level, if you're up 10 seconds, it's like you could almost win a game based off that in certain situations. Well, definitely in some situations, but definitely even out of the opening, like, it just makes the game so much easier when you have time and you get control of the game when you have more time, basically. Because you get to tell your partner what to give, not to give, and you can be waiting to make sure that they're safe, too. So, yeah, so far, let me just exactly happened here. So... This is already just a bit of a interesting opening. You don't really see this happen too often, where b3 was played. And, okay, so normally you'd go, like, queen, like, d7 or e7 rather than trade. But this is fine, too. This is not even bad. Just want to make sure you stay safe. And if they act in this position, you're totally safe, as long as your partner doesn't give a queen. So I wouldn't even fault the whole, like, queen f6 line. Like, that's probably not even... too bad, as long as white doesn't have like 5 million queens that they can try and stack on you and checkmate. So that's all good. And looking at Anna-Maja's board here, everything's pretty good here too. So right here, what would be a pretty decent idea is just like sort of queen e2, protect the knight. Oh, that works too. Queen at c8 is good because it also defends the knight. And if they defend with the queen, then you can actually take twice, right? And you're gonna get 2 queens for 1 queen, which is really good for your partner to get that extra material for them. They're actually getting like a checkmate happening here, eh? Like knight at h4 sort of taking on f5 here once the king goes to g6. And then if they could get an extra knight, they'll have mate on f7 when knight at f7, queen takes, knight takes, which is pretty cool. Ooh, they can also like buy time. Like the great thing about both of their positions is they're just so safe. They're playing against some lower rated opponents, so it's kind of expected, I guess. I'm like not looking for the word here, that they wouldn't be in too much trouble against them, which is awesome because they're not. They're both very safe. A weighted like look at initiative is if they had a bunch of pieces, could they get an attack? You want to always be thinking, what could they get? And really, honestly, unless white in this position had a ton of pieces and uptime, there's no way they'd get an attack. So they're just easy win for the two of them right there. I guess I should undeafen. Let's okay, let's get back into it. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yes, you can. Hi.
All
Sorry,
right, no, you're good.
that was not the most challenging game.
I know. I'm like commentating on it like it's like the world finals. I'm like, okay, she's going here. That's a great move. You know, it's safe. And then I look, I'm like, oh, it's 800. Maybe.
I was saying, I hope that you're not gonna see like what the ratings are, because we just weren't getting a game against the pool. So then I clicked play and we immediately got paired.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe I'll just think you're amazing at this game, and before you see the ratings.
No, yeah, I was singing your praises here, like, oh, look at them, they're both so safe, absolutely demolishing.
Yeah, the free pawns definitely helped. Was there anything worse discussing for that game, or should we try find harder opponents?
Honestly, not a whole lot, just because you didn't really make any mistakes. And there wasn't really opportunity to make a mistake either. So, like, even if you had just, like, played, like, F5, I'm pretty sure you would have been safe. So.
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll try another game. That was the warm-up, just to get the nerves out of the system.
Yeah, I was looking. There are some, like, 2,000 rated players playing, so hopefully you can get in a match with one of them.
Okay, great.
Alright, I'm gonna def it
Okay.
again.
Yeah. Anna-Maja will send, yeah.
Alright, we have def it. See, look, I'm a natural at this Discord thing, guys. That's it. Professional. Okay. So, okay, they're against 2,000 rated players. Alright, this is gonna be really interesting. Okay, so, bit of a pawn blunder. There's a few things that went wrong in this opening here. Off the bat, is you don't want to develop your bishop to c4 if there's a pawn on e6, really. Like, you'd rather just bring out your knights, maybe castle, bishop e2, maybe even check, but, like, you don't have to check. It's just different lines. It doesn't, like, there's no right or wrong option, but except for maybe this, because you're just staring at a pawn. So this was kind of a not great move. Let's catch up to where we're at now. I'm going to try to, like, commentate really fast, but Bughouse is such a fast game. It's hard to, like, pause on specific moments. So if I miss some, we can go over it in analysis afterwards as well. So right here, this is good. You're going to be wanting to watch out for pawn at e4 kind of stuff. Like, you don't really want to take because you open the rook and then they just get a bit of a strong file there. In this position, you probably just want to try and be up time. So they're downtime, big issue. Because if you were uptime, you could kick this bishop and then to kind of take the bishop on f3 after they capture your knight, move the queen back down castle and try and get safe. But because there's no time, you'd be worrying about pawn at e4 coming after you take on f3, right? Sorry, like, it moves so fast, so we're going to be doing our best to keep up. I haven't really done a stream like this before, so bear with me, guys. Alright, so this is decent. You're gonna want to maybe swing the rook to g1 just to defend knight at g2. That works as well. I would have just gone rook g1 to save the pawn, so you could use it for later. But obviously pawn at g2 is also very good. So this board, let's see if I can't really switch boards, can I? No, I can't. I wish I could rewind the moves on this board, but I can't because I want to see how this position happened. It's not the best position to be in, but it's also not the worst because there's no real threat unless they get, like, you're going to lose some pieces. That's a threat, but there's no checkmate threat unless they get some rooks and queens, really. So right here to defend, because you don't really want to get into this situation in the first place, but obviously we are here, and being downtime makes it almost really tricky to defend because you can't say don't give any more pieces because you're downtime, so the pieces will come. But here, what you're going to want to do is sort of just put pieces around your king to defend. So yeah, that's a good one. Bishop at g5, also bishop at maybe g8, or honestly, a lot of players probably just take the knight, give up the queen, move back, take the knight, and then you're just trying to get the pieces away from your king as well as put more of your pieces around your king, just to try and stay safe. So that move's fine, but the problem is the bishop on h5 isn't actually, it's almost your friend. That's an interesting thing about Bughouse is sometimes pieces are your friends, because bishop on h5 means that if this knight gets dislodged or moved, that knight at h5 won't be a future threat. So you have to think pretty far in advance, just like regular chess. You have to think, okay, what if one day my knight's not here because they place pawns on e5, kick it away, and then, you know, you got problems on h5 if there's no bishop there. Sometimes, like, even here, like, these knights are sort of actually protecting her in a weird way because these knights could have been worse pieces. Like, imagine if this was a bishop, that would be a nightmare, right? Or if this was, like, a rook, like, oh my gosh. So the knights are not so bad, but you do need to worry a bit of it. So, like, right here, like, pawn at h6, like, this board I'm not going to focus on too much because I would say that she's doing fine here. But, yeah, knight at f3, just move over and defend g2. So just, you don't want to take that. Because if you take that, then they got pawn at g2, you go king out, and then knights might be checkmating you. You always want to, like, it's better to lose material unless it mates your partner than to lose position. So yeah, this board, Black's done a pretty good job at defending so far. I was going to say, like, a whole other line, but now we're in a different position than we were before. So this is good. The knights, as I said, weirdly defending. And yeah, I was going to say, like, yeah, threats on h7 and g8 are covered by the knight. So, and the rook. So at least you've got 2 pieces defending. That's better. So right now, knight at g5 is really bad. So I'd say like a main issue is speed for sure, but obviously speed's hard to improve on unless you like. I'm bad at moving fast in chess because I don't know what moves to make. So if you're new to Bughouse and you don't know what moves to make, it's going to be harder to move fast, right? Unless you just move. And if you move fast, you might sacrifice move quality. So it's a little tricky to just say, go faster. But you do have to try to go faster. So I guess that's just a bit of experience. And also, you need experience playing just so you can move faster and know the moves, as well as play safe. So yeah, this is a bit of a rough time that's happened here. What exactly happened? So they didn't take, that's good. And then the queen sacked on g2c. It's really tricky, right? Because it's not, when did the queen get there? Let me rewind. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting one to talk about because there's so much that happened. Okay, so they took the knight. When they took the knight, they should have defended this pawn, actually, funny enough. Like, okay, there's so much going on. I can't even, like, cover it all without, okay, wait, let's get into the chat with them and then we'll talk about it. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm like going on and on. There's just so much to cover in this one game. It's crazy.
we did it intentionally because we were like, if we play perfectly like we did in the previous game, you'll have nothing to say. Whereas if we
yes,
give you a couple of things to work with, yes, it wasn't
intentional.
Okay, so hit us with it. What?
Okay, so it's a bit tricky because I can't rewind the moves on the board. I wasn't mainly spectating. So, I'm trying to figure out exactly how I should go about it. That's what I was saying, like, analyzing the games is a little tricky.
Yes. I could
but we're
share
gonna do
my
our best,
screen if that helps at all.
Yeah, so I'm following you right now, so I'm able to rewind the moves on your board, but then Anna-Maja's I can't, rewind.
Okay, so now you need to open my profile, and then, like, there's the gate, there's, like, my part of the game, the match.
Yeah, I could. I could also just try to remember. Yeah,
so you can see over here, now you can see.
Let me just memorize the whole game real quick.
But you should be able to see Anna-Maja's moves as well.
Yeah. Okay, so you said you're gonna share your... Oh, you're gonna share your screen, sort of?
In Discord? I don't know if you can see it.
I
hope I'm sharing the right window.
Yeah, I can see it.
I see watch stream. Would that be... Is that the thing?
Yes,
I don't think my viewers will be able to see, but maybe I can try and time it with the same... They heard me talk about it. It's fine. All right.
Okay.
So I just click watch stream. All right.
I think
so. All right. So you guys in chat won't be able to see this, but it's okay. You saw the game
Wait, it
live.
says the source is 5 FPS. Are you able to see that?
5 FPS. That's all the frames I need. All right. Okay. So
yeah, it's chess, fortunately.
we'll kind of go over one board at a time, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go crazy in depth though, so otherwise, I guess we could literally be here all day analyzing one game because there's a lot to always talk about. Just like with chess games, you could talk about everything for hours. But
Yes.
All right, so right off the bat, just with your opening, if you want to back up a couple moves, like bishop, like this is great. E4 is a very good like line in Bughouse, just E4, E5, but they played E6 here. So the difference here is you don't want to go bishop C4 if it's gonna, because then they're gonna maybe go D5 and they'll have like sort of a tempo on your bishop because then they just kick your bishop back and you lose a turn. So and also if you like the whole point sort of for the move bishop c4 is to get a strong bishop on that diagonal, but with the pawn on e6 it's not doing as much as it would be otherwise, right? Because it's just staring at the pawn. So like instead what you would want to do is sort of just develop your knight's bishop e2 maybe, or when they go d5 bishop b5 would be like regular lines. Essentially.
Sorry, so bishop to e2 or
or when they play d5 then bishop to b5. So if they're probably going to play like d6 or d5, so you want to play bishop b5 to maybe check the king. That's one line, or you can play the line like bishop e2. So it's just like a general, I guess, rules. You don't really want your bishops to be staring at like their pawns on e6 or d6 too much.
Makes a lot of sense.
And that's just for that line. It's just like a simple little thing. And it'll save you just time in the opening. So then you can go forward.
No, this is good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's like staple rules, so I'm trying to make it like a little general so you can apply it in other situations. And yeah, let's move forward a few moves. Let's see where the next big thing happened. Keep going.
We were forgetting,
so yeah, you did hang a pawn there. You did hang e4 just with bishop to e3. So yeah, just like like knight c3, but that's fine. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
And then you just keep going. I'll say when the next sort of big moment would be. So even just there, like what I would say, like rewind a couple moves again. Like instead of bishop to d3, bishop e2 would have been a little bit better, just because if you're planning to go knight f3, you don't want pawn at e4. And then also a big plan of theirs is they have this bishop from like the c8 diagonal, right? It's really strong, so you're blocking them from going bishop g4 right away by having your bishop on e2. So you're just saving yourself time again so that you don't have to defend for when they do that. And also they don't get that pin on your knight. So it's just like little things, I guess, still. But you can keep going.
I feel like I should be taking notes of all this as well, because I have like a 2-second memory.
I'm sorry. I hope I'm not being too specific either. Like.
No. This is exactly what you're here.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's like we were saying. It's like learning chess all over again. It's so strange because we know like the general chess rules. But Bughouse, like usually you don't have to worry about a fork on e4 because the pawn's gone.
Exactly. No. Exactly. That's just it though. You have to always think. Like I was saying in one situation, you have to always think. Okay, but what if they get these pieces, sort of thing.
Yes,
because it could happen. So just let's keep going forward. Let's see if any other big moments happened.
There were quite a few moments.
There were a lot of moments this game. I couldn't talk fast enough to keep up with it. Not all bad. There were some good moments too. There's just lots of
I think they were probably on the other board. Okay, I'm assuming you'll say.
Yeah, so all of this was, like, fine. I would have gone rook g1. That was one thing I kind of mentioned, was rook g1 instead of pawn at g2. It doesn't really matter, but I would just do it so you save the pawn. Also, you get the rook on that nice open file. So, like, knight f5 will be really strong, because then your rook will be attacking g7 and the knight. So you're kind of setting up an attack there.
Okay. And one thing I was wondering about, sorry, I'm gonna ask questions. One thing I was wondering about, like, was I dropping pieces too passively though? Because I was using my pieces to drop them for defense. Is that, how do you balance that out? One sec,
I'm just gonna try and get to the point on my stream too so they can kind of see what I'm talking about. So you hear, like, rook, and then you have attacks. Okay, now they can see. It's, like, hard. Alright. It's too bad I can't capture the Discord, I'm not sure how to even do that, but that's okay for next time. So yeah, passive drop. So yeah, I guess the pawn there is kind of passive because you give up that attack. But yeah, let's keep going and I'll see if there's, like, other situations where you could have been a bit more aggressive. So yeah, this is all good. You're pretty safe here. Like, you're actually safe plus solid, so to say. Like, super, super safe.
Okay, great.
Yeah, all of this was great. It's kind of hard to say exactly what to do in situations if you don't see what's happening on the partner's board, but we'll get there when we look at the other board, because I kind of remember.
Yes.
So yeah, here, like, let's go back a bit, like 2 moves maybe? Let's just see what happened. So with the pawn at e2.
More back? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. So this is
like
good.
With the pawn on e2, yeah.
I wouldn't have maybe played f4, just because you're keeping that knight defended. I know it's already defended by the rook, but it also, just having pawns on f3 and h3 can be pretty good for defense. So, and then bishop h2 isn't really a threat because you just take it, so you don't really need to do that. So what I would have done instead was try to be more aggressive. So this is one of those situations, I guess, because playing the move f4, they don't even care about that bishop. A lot of times, like, I guess this is a big mindset thing that you could, like, this is a good general pointer. A lot of times you don't have to care about your pieces so much in Bughouse. I know it's totally different in chess. It's like every pawn counts so much, right? But in here, as you can see, he just played pawn at e2. He did not care at all, or he or she did not care at all about the bishop on e5. So, just...
So how would you play aggressively here?
It would be hard, because you don't necessarily have initiative right off the bat, but just things like pawn at h5, just to start trying to get in on that light square, like around the king, right? To try and attack g6 and f7 and just slow. Like, you had a bishop in this situation, so maybe if you asked for a pawn, like, I can't 100% remember what was happening on the other board at the time.
But, I don't know, can you see? I don't know if there's a way for me to make this bigger. Can you kind of see Anna-Maja's board?
So, oh, okay, that's a lot better. Is this the same position from their...
Yes.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, this is at the same time.
I don't think it used to do that. Wait, press, like, back one move? I want to see. I'm curious. Oh, wow. So okay, that's new. Like that didn't used to be a thing. That did not used to be a thing. That's new. Okay, so awesome. So now we know what was happening on the board. So yeah, there was a bit of attack happening there. Okay, that's way better.
Yes.
Okay, now I know that. That's gonna make analyzing way better. I wish I could capture the... Maybe I'll try to see if there's a way I can do it when you're in your next game. But All right,
Yeah, I
so
also get
because if I can capture
and stuff like that.
your little thing you're showing me here, so that everyone else could see, that they wouldn't be so
Yes.
lost. Because they just have the
Shame.
dead board like on my stream right now. Okay, but that's fine. So yeah, obviously it's kind of hard to get pieces well with your partner in that position. So in that case, I would just play safe because you kind of always have to ask like 3 main questions, and in this order, you always want to ask like, what is my opponent thinking, right? So like, what is the purpose behind their move? And then if there is a good purpose, you should probably deal with it. But if not, then you can start asking the other questions like, how can I attack? And then we say, okay, maybe pawn at h5, but then you realize, okay, you can't get a pawn. So you have to move on to the next question, which is like, how can I improve my position or worsen my opponent's position? There's no real way to worsen the opponent's position. So then we think, okay, how can I improve my position? So maybe here what you could do is come up with like any sort of attack or way, way to like keep them from attacking you. So we see the knight move to d4. They're wanting to attack you. Maybe a move like bishop at d3 could be good, just defend c2 and e2. It's a little tricky because already at this point, it's just because of what happened on your partner's board, it's a little tricky to control the situation on your board. Also, we're down time. That was something I was mentioning a lot, is that because we're down time, because I know it's hard to just play. I was explaining that, like, I'm really slow when I play chess because I'm not, like, a pro at it. So I often have to think a lot to figure out what move I'm going to make, whereas now in Bughouse, it's just, like, instantaneous, so I can move really fast. So I can't just say, like, play fast. Like, you have to kind of know exactly what you're doing to do that. But I guess, yeah, keep an eye on the time. Try and play as fast as you can. But obviously, you don't want to, like, sacrifice your move quality too much for it. So,
yes.
Yeah, that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
So, yeah, here it's a little bit tricky. Like I'm saying, like, you can only really try and defend a bit. Maybe bishop at d3. It's a little bit not the best. But, yeah, we can keep going. We're almost at the end here. So, let's see. I did like what you did in a couple moves from here when they went knight at f3. So, let's get to there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that you did the right thing. I was like, don't take that knight, don't take it. You didn't take it, which is really good. So you did perfect there. They did end up getting your knight, right? So here you tried to like get the queen to go, and then what did they do? Did they take your rook?
They took the rook.
Okay, so yeah. So let's go back one move because I'm trying to decide.
Over here.
Yeah. Here maybe. I would not have played knight at g3, I think, because I'm thinking, I guess we could take the queen, but I think it's just too dangerous because you're down so much time. So...
And to be honest, I also didn't see that I was attacking the queen despite putting the knight at g3.
That's what I thought you were trying to do, was like get their pieces to back up from your king.
It was really not. Well, maybe it probably was, but then I forgot it because we were panicking.
No, that's good. So... Because you're down time, you always have to play extra safe because they could get like pieces. So if you just took the queen, they could go like pawn at h3 and like totally checkmate you within a few moves. So let's go back one more move. Instead of knight at g3. Yeah, instead of knight at g3, I think you'd have to do something like bishop at h3 because right now there's a few threats. The biggest one. Oh, there's 2 big ones. No, the biggest one, actually, because your partner only has 1 knight in this position on their board, which I'll explain in a second. The biggest one is that, like, pawns and diagonal pieces being dropped at h3 is a big problem because they have this almost discovered attack with knight h4, right? The queen attacking g2. And you want to just defend. But then the other threat is if they play knight at g3 and you take with the f-pawn, then knight at f2 mates you. And if you take with the h-pawn, then rook at h2 mates you. But your partner can only give 1 knight, so that's why it's not a threat. That's why I would go bishop at h3. It's very complicated. Is that what you meant
by 1 knight? Because there's only 1 knight on the board on Anna's
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about Anna-Maja's board. Because that matters too. So everything was going so well, but then it went downhill a little bit with the sack sitting. I think that's what happened, right? So is there any way you could make the board just a little bit bigger by like?
Anna-Maja could share her board, I think.
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Sure.
Wait, I always have to make sure I don't leave the call entirely. There we go. So I've stopped sharing.
Okay, let me see. You see this?
let's see, it's loading. Okay, yes, I see.
Cool.
Alright, so let's have a look. We can go through, so this is a good opening, yeah? You can just go and I'll tell you when,
I mean, I also play this in normal chess, so
okay, yeah.
kinda helps.
Oh no, it's the French though. We can't say that's a good opening.
No, it's like completely fine against d4, I would say. I just play d5 right away, but that's because I'm kind of crazy. You can only get away with that if you go at like lightning speed, because otherwise you run into problems.
Okay, alright.
So yeah.
Yeah, so they gave me the pawn over here. I wasn't sure if that was like intentional or...
No,
like...
that's bad by them.
Okay, it's bad. Okay.
I wish I knew what pieces you had at this moment, because I'm seeing it shows all the pieces you had for like the whole game on the side, but I'm not sure.
At the stage you had a pawn.
I dropped the pawn. Yeah. Oh, you can see that.
Yeah, so you had a pawn.
Okay.
Yeah, so I dropped the pawn. I figured f5 is better than like d5 because it's closer to the king.
There I would have gone. Because right here the big threat is like knight takes f7. There, like I said, pieces don't matter as much, so you don't really have to worry about your pawn on e4 as much. But we're going to, because you don't want to lose pieces either, because it damages your partner's like ability to play if their opponent has an advantage with more pieces. So maybe bishop b4, because then you pin the knight, right? And then you also develop a piece, and then you also open ability to castle, so you don't have to worry about them sacking, and you also give your king more space for if they take on f7, you can go king f8 eventually. So you're not as congested. You don't want to be congested when you get sacked on. I guess that's the main takeaway. You want to make sure your king has a lot of space to run around.
Yeah, so like what I'm worried about is when I move my bishop from f8 is that they put something on h6 and then g7 becomes a hole, and I don't know how to deal with that. Yeah,
there's a lot of situations where you definitely need, because those are like the main two squares that you're going to be attacked on. Just even when you're castled, like it's f7 and g7, right? Like castled or uncastled, they try and do like knight at h5 and things like that. So in this situation, you don't have to worry about that. Your knight covers h5. If they just play pawn at h6, you just go rook g8, and it's completely fine.
Okay, I see. Okay, so that's the defense.
That's one thing that I think is something I learned later on that I wish I had known earlier, is you don't want to play like being afraid of attacks. You want to know what to do. You want to, instead of trying to prevent them, you want to know what to do when they happen, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the time it's just a bluff. Like a pawn at h6 is a bluff. It's not a real attack. It's just them trying to buy time, basically, so that they don't get attacked themselves.
Yeah, it's also why I'm spending so much time, because I see these kind of moves and I'm like, yeah, so they might have that. So like I spent so much time like just thinking about this, and I think like if I know these kind of like small details, it will save so much time already, because I'll be fine moving this bishop. Yeah,
there's absolutely no worries about like g7. Like there's like even if they somehow got like pawn at h6, knight at h5, and your rook's on g8, and they take knight takes g7 check, you could just go king f8 and you're completely safe, unless they get a bishop on h6. That's what you want to worry about, is when there's like a bishop and discovered attacks. And it's hard to show when I don't have an analysis for it. I wish I had one.
But, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Let's keep going.
So yeah. Here I figured that playing c6 is not the way, because it's
you weaken them.
C7. Yeah. So I just did bishop b7. Here play this. Here they took.
Okay. Yeah. So this is where you don't want to play h7 to h6. So let's go back a couple moves. Just because it weakens your light squares. Because if they're going to sack on f7, now they've got like a hole on g6. They can just place pawns and like torture your king, basically. So instead, like pawn at h6 would be good, because then if they take on h7, you take. Now they have no knight at g5 options, and they have no pawn at g6 options. So you'd rather place a piece. Or here's another option. Just if they don't have a ton of material, because I don't remember how much they had, just develop your bishop, like I said before, like bishop b4. Just so that when you capture on f7, like the way I like to think about it, which is the better mindset I think to have about sack sitting in general, is, hey, go for it. Take my pawn. Now I get a free knight to give to my partner. Haha, sucks for you. Like, as long as you know how to defend against it, it's just free material. It's great, right? You don't want to be afraid of it. You want to like almost like encourage it. As long as they don't have like tons of queens, like you can just take all of their pieces they throw at you. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Makes sense.
So let's keep going, because now we can get into... So that's how to prevent this from happening. But we also
Yeah.
want to know, because sometimes it will happen no matter what you do. Like, sometimes you just find yourself in these situations. So let's see how we
Yeah.
could have defended a little bit better once we got into the situation.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
there,
had to
instead
take
of taking,
or
no,
not.
so I would not have taken. I just,
Oh.
if they had a queen, then it doesn't matter. You're checkmate.
They had a
knight.
You would.
They
They
have a
would.
knight,
Okay,
yeah.
so they have a knight.
They have
so
a knight, and Anna-Maja has a knight.
okay, good to know. Thank you. So after they played pawn at g6, you just want to go king e7, because if you take, then they get knight at f4, which attacks e6, and also g6, which is a big problem because those are both weak squares at this point. So you just go king e7. You don't care about losing your rook. If they go knight at f7, like I said, I think a good way to look at it is if it doesn't mate your partner or damage their position too much, value your position and your safety over your material. Like, that's a good way to just think about it in
Okay.
general. You want to give up rooks if it means that you can be safer and not getting mated. So after you took, it kind of gave them the initiative for the whole rest of the game. Because if you look at their
Yeah.
position, you also want to be thinking, how can I attack? And if I was to ask you right now, what square on their board looks the weakest, what would you say? If it was your turn and you were in check.
Yeah, I would want to put something on f3.
F3, that's a
Just
good
to
one.
get G2.
What I would say is just a little bit better is G2, that's the weakest square. But you want to go
Yeah.
knight at h4. And it's because it's
Oh.
going to be so hard for them to defend. They can't go bishop at f3, which is one of the main defenses for that, right? Because you have a pawn on e4. And they played the move h3, which was actually really bad for them. That was a mistake, and I know you guys were talking about how you wanted to know how to like punish mistakes. So here's a
Yeah.
really common pattern that I wish I could draw out for you, but I don't have a board. But a really common pattern to remember is like when there's like a hole like that on h2, right? You want to go knight at h4. They're going to go rook g1, another main way of defending it if there's no bishop at f3, and then pawn at h2.
Right.
And then they're so screwed because what are they going to do? You're about to take their rook and promote it to like queen or whatever, so they have to defend that. They also have to worry about g2, which your knight's attacking, so if they move their rook, then there's that. So it's actually impossible to defend. They're just going to lose the game most likely. So if you were able to not be under attack, if you had gone king e7, then maybe that would have been an opportunity, unless they placed like pawn on g3 to block it, because they need to be thinking about that happening. Or if they
that makes so much sense. Yeah.
yeah, and then the last way they could defend it, which would be the smartest way, because that one would be the one that just is insta losing the game, rook g1, is the only way they can actually defend that is with bishop at f1. But you get such a big advantage because then you play pawn at f3, so you have the knight on h4, right? Bishop f1, and then pawn at f3, and then you're threatening to take on g2. If they ever go rook g1, you got the pawn at h2 move because you have that pattern recognized. And then they're probably just going to have to keep taking on g2 and rinse and repeating and trying to put like knights on e3 to defend g2, and they're just defending the whole game. And all you need is pawns to attack. It's not even like you need a lot of material.
Yeah, that makes so
Awesome.
much sense.
So yeah, but then you took on g6, so you got, unfortunately, they got the initiative for the rest of the game. So let's see if we could have, let's just go through it really quickly. Oh, sorry, yeah?
Quickly before we move on,
Sure.
just, how do you decide where to put the king? Okay, so g8 is like obviously really bad.
Yeah, that would be mate in one.
Why is e7
Okay,
better
so
than e8? Is it just because
E8
you can't be checked with a pawn on f7? or
Yeah,
something
so
like
you don't
that?
want to get, worse would be, so pawn at f7 can sometimes be really bad because let's say your knight's not on f6, then knight at g8, once your king goes to e7, is going to be checkmating you. But since your knight was on g6, that's not a big issue. The f6. Since your knight was on f6 defending g8, if your king goes to e8, what I would be worried about is bishop at f7, actually. Because bishop at f7, then they take on e6, forcing your king to kind of move out even more, and creating threats like knight at d5, knight takes, and then your king's basically getting checkmated.
Okay,
So-
so there's not like a general rule, it's just like danger. Awareness of danger and choosing.
In general, you
where
want to
you're
go to
trying to go.
e7. There are way more...
General e7, okay.
But the thing is, it's situational, but there are way more situations that exist where you want to go to e7 than e8, just in general. But the best place we could have gone is f8, but the bishop's there, so we needed to move that bishop out a little earlier. So it's all very complicated. But
No,
Yeah,
it
that's
makes
like-
so much sense.
It's
yeah.
breaking all of the chess rules though.
I know.
That's why it's so like weird because
I
you're blocking in
know.
your bishop.
that's how I felt
Your
about trying to
king's
play
going towards
chess,
the
is
center.
like, I started playing Bughouse first, basically, so playing chess was so foreign to me. But yeah, I guess the general takeaway, so that it's not so specific and hard to remember, the general takeaway is develop that bishop so you can go king f8 when they play pawn at g6 or knight at g5, that kind of thing.
Is that why you're supposed to develop your king's bishop?
That is one of the main reasons, is so that when you get sacked on, you can have...
Okay, you can go to f8.
You need movement. You need to be able to move your king to f8. Or self-castle by bringing the rook to f8 and then king g8.
Okay.
That's a big one too. Or queen f8 and king e8. It's all different situations. So if you're getting...
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to get into it. Oh my gosh, it's going to take me like... I could go on and on about sack sitting because it's such a big thing. Let's just move on, or else we're going to be on this game forever.
It's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, self-castling and king f8. Those are the two main things you want to do when you're sacked on.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. We'll just see if there was any way we could have redeemed sort of our safety or something like that. So yeah, that was good because you created safe. Space. Sorry, you made space, but they made a mistake. They should not have taken with the knight. I don't think. I think they should have just taken with the bishop.
Right.
Actually, no. I think they should have taken with the knight, unless they got another knight. It's fine. I'm worried about knight at d5 things, but they did well for the little material they had. So yeah, knight takes g6 is right, and then we can keep going. So yeah, you move to get out of the check. They had another
here
knight.
I was like, I have some pieces, and what do I do? Yeah, they have a knight. So
they have a knight, bishop, and a pawn.
Yeah, so in this exact position, I remember saying, like, you want to put pieces around your king, and that's what you did. You placed, like, bishop at g5, which defends against them taking on h6. What I would have done... this is, like, so difficult at this point, but, you know what? That's a fine move. I would have maybe done that one, too. But the only problem is then they're going to place pawn on h6 and force the situation anyways, so then you end up going either king takes 6 or king takes h8, and knight at f7 comes no matter what. So it's a bit of an unfortunate situation. I think you did the best kind of thing you could have done. Like bishop at g5 is good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Oh, good.
But a big bit of a mistake comes up in the next couple moves, I remember.
Okay. Oh gosh.
All right, so this was the mistake. Was a bishop at e8. So bishop
no.
bishop at g8 would have been better because you don't want them to move that bishop. I know it sounds weird, but sometimes your opponent's pieces protect you. And in this case, their bishop on h5 is preventing them from doing knight at h5, which I know you can take with your knight. Then they move their queen, though, and they get a bit of an attack on, like, g6, because they're going to be threatening queen g6, queen f7. Or they could place things like pawn at e5 to dislodge your knight, and then do knight at h5 later. So you like their bishop there, because it's better than their queen or knight being there. So you just want to leave that bishop to do his thing. And yeah, the knight on h8 isn't really causing you any threat, so you don't have to take it, you can ignore it. So this is right here, right in this exact position right now. I know it sounds crazy. Right here I would have gone knight at h4, if you had it. I would have ignored the pawn at f4, because the only thing you can do when you're getting attacked this hard is try to attack harder. And a lot of the time it's not possible. But, you know, if you're losing, it's your best bet. So maybe knight at h4 is what I would have done to do that whole sequence that I was talking about before, earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
And then after
that sounds good.
And then after this, I don't think there was really much we could have done to turn it around after bishop at e8. Unfortunately, I think it kind of just they just slowly picked away your position until, like, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I felt like I had some comeback with my queen accidentally, but like at some point it was kind of hopeless. Yeah.
Yeah, because now with their knight on g6, you lose the opportunities for like knight at h4 and things like that. So they were just a bit too safe.
That too.
It was just So I think that's pretty much it for that game that I could say.
Oh, that was awesome. That was a lot of stuff to learn.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. With the games, it's going to be a little easier, but I'm wondering if there's any way I'd be able to show it so that I can, because my viewers can't see what they're doing at all. I'm in live. Is play chess better?
The only thing with play chess is it does like scuff up the board at the end of the game, but if you go moves and then back to partner, then you can get the thing that looks. But I don't...
maybe I'll go there as well. Yeah.
Is that the one that'll it might like glitch your game while you're playing, but is that the one that'll let me see both positions at the same time?
Hopefully.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me see.
Well, we might as well try it out, and then if it doesn't work, we can go back to live.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not even... Let me see. Oh, yeah, it does let me look through all the moves. Okay, that's cool.
Oh, nice. Okay, great.
Yeah, nice.
Cool.
Awesome.
I'm wondering if I would be able to just quickly fix it so that they can watch, but...
Well, should we take a second or two to just...
Yeah, just 2 seconds to fix the board.
My windows as
Because
well.
I just want to make sure that it's not just
sure.
me talking with the viewers being so confused. I would be so confused if I was watching my stream right now. Alright, so yeah, if you both are in play chess, then I can just sort of tell you what move to go to, maybe? And we can do it like that.
Yes.
I don't know how
that'll
to
work
view
very
what
nice.
move it is. I'll just say, like, oh, when you moved knight to here, it was, like, in the early... Well, we'll figure it out.
Yes. Well, if you go
feel
across
like,
two moves as well, it tells the move number.
I feel like this is, like, the first, like, Bughouse analysis stream, like, ever made. So it's a bit of a trial and error. Sorry, viewers.
But
Alright.
think of all of the great knowledge that people can get from this or get from it.
Sure.
Exactly,
Alright.
yeah.
So it's breaking ground.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we'll try get some more 2,000 opponents.
Okay, let's go.
Awesome.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
wow, that was fast.
that was
Okay.
quick.
Alrighty.
Alright, let's go.
I assume I can go bishop to...
Alright, I've deafened. There we go. Okay. Let's... I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm sorry you couldn't see what was happening. Hopefully you could, like, kind of remember what happened. So, yeah. Okay, it's fine. I think it'll be better now. We can look through it as we do it so you can see what I'm talking about. I apologize. First game. I wasn't sure how we were going to go about that. I didn't think I could capture their capture. Alright, so far, both playing totally normal openings. Not much to say. We've got... what happened here? Was it the London system? So this was another situation where I said don't put the bishop to c4. But, okay, well, let me go back all the way. I think if they make a move, it... Yeah, so this is where I said don't do bishop c4. I think I will have to remind them that after this, but that's all good. Because as you can see, this is the situation where they took advantage of it and went d5 instead of d6 like the previous opponent, right? d5 got the tempo on the bishop having to move back to e2, which is where it should have been in the first place, e2, or like I said, b5 if the king can be checked. You don't really want to just go bishop b5 for no other reason. You want to do it if it's like going to check or pin the knight, right? So maybe don't do it if there's a bishop on d7 or a pawn on d7 and the knight's here. Things like that. So let's keep looking. They're going too slow. So here they definitely just take the bishop. Oh, no. Oh, they should have taken g2 and just ignored that. Oh, no, actually, no, they played the right move, because now there's a tempo on the knight. Or, like, an attack on the knight. Not tempo. This position's totally fine for black. But white, I hope it's not glitching. Like, it says, like, moves has happened, but I think... Like, see how it's, like, switching the clock as if they moved? Am I glitched? Let me refresh. Did that mess up the boards? No, it didn't. Oh, what is happening? Oh gosh, I don't know how to... Now we're watching from the wrong perspective. And there's no button to switch it. Let me reload again. Yeah, okay. Now we're watching from the other perspective. That's not good. Gosh, I'm trying. Oh, here! Now we can switch it. I found it. Now we're watching from Anna-Maja's perspective. This is going so crazy. Alright, whoops. Alright, so yeah, this position's totally fine for black. Doing well. I honestly missed what happened there due to the thing glitching. They eventually probably took on g2, I'm guessing. I think I can rewind. Yeah, I can. Did they take on g2? Oh, the king went out, eh? That's not great. So what happens here? Here, you want to go knight at f4, not pawn at g2. But pawn at g2 does work if you're up time, but they're down time, so that would not have worked. It's very situational. Like, time, like, unlike chess, you make a certain move based on how much time you have. Whereas in chess, you can just make it no matter how much time, really, if it's the best move. But here, best move changes based on how much time you have. So they're down a lot of time. That's the biggest issue, I would say, other than the other things I've pointed out so far. So yeah, as you can see, this is a big attack that I often do. I'm not sure if White played the London system. I kind of missed what happened here, but in the London system, I'll often play. 2 bishops on the dark or the light square. Light if I'm playing against it as black, but like with the bishop on g6 and f5, but here obviously f4 and g3 for this exact reason of getting this attack. Oh gosh, see, it's not letting me see the moves. Maybe we only go here for the analysis? I guess. That's going to be a little bit of a hassle though. Because now we can't see their moves, it glitched again. I'm going to go back to live chess. Oh gosh, that was a mess of a game. I barely saw any of it. Oh no, okay. It's fine. Figure it out. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait, were you able to hear me? You weren't, right? I was deafened.
No, we couldn't hear
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
You will not believe the absolute struggle I just went through. with not with your moves, don't worry. I mean, there's a few things to talk about, but with
Yeah, I heard.
with the play chess, it glitched like 3 times where it just wouldn't show me the
no.
moves you were making anymore. Then it switched opponents' perspectives, and then when I reloaded it, I was on the other person's board. It was just a nightmare.
Oh, no,
So,
sorry. Yes, that was bad advice.
No, I mean, it's not your
Play
fault
chess.
that the website's not quite, like, it's like in beta, so it's not your fault. Let me just put it back. That's not going to work, unfortunately, that solution. Let me just put it back in.
Maybe it will work for
to
analyzing
live.
the games, but not for the...
That's what I was wondering, but then I feel like I have to, like, adjust my boards every time. That's the
Or
only
yeah,
issue.
no, that's a mission.
Oh yeah, that's
Right? Oh my gosh, I wish there was an easier way to do this. I wish I could even just capture your Discord, but I don't think I can I? If you were sharing your
You
screen.
should be able to with the window capture, I think.
With window
Yeah.
capture?
There's just always the chance that you leak all of your
I
top
know,
secret Discord
always
messages.
top
That's always the
secret
worst thing, though. It just
messages.
pops up on the screen.
Yeah, that's why I don't like that with Discord. But yeah,
Okay,
that's
well,
a bit tricky.
yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I'm... Because they won't be able to see it again if I just go on. I could try and
if
open it
you-
and play chess and... Oh, what if I just do... You know what I could do? I think only one of the boards gets messed up. Just give me 1 second to see if I can fix it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
No, all good.
Don't worry.
We have time to just sit and think about the game.
Yeah. Reflect.
Reflect.
Let me see. Alright, yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do like a huge window capture for the game analysis. And just like put it on top so that way people can see what I'm dealing with. Like, look at the position of these boards, guys. You see why it's so like, oh, they're like totally off center. Okay, that's fine though. Let me just put that up so that people can see. Here we go. Alright. Don't worry, guys. We'll have this figured out for next time we do something like this. Here we go. Alright, so let's see. I'm gonna go to the beginning. And I'm watching from... Let's do the same perspectives. Let's watch... I will do #chess. We'll do yours first. Here we go.
Okay.
So...
I'm interested to see what you thought of the king walk.
Okay, so they went... Yeah, so here you don't want to do bishop c4 again. Because they went... I know they went e6 after you did it.
Yes.
But you gotta, like, think, okay, they could go e6. So you only ever want to do it if their pawn's already moved to e5.
If their pawn's already moved to e5.
Yeah,
okay.
because otherwise they could play e6 and you fall into the same issue as before where they played d5, which they actually did here, which is what I was worried about, where they get the tempo on the bishop and you have to spend a move moving the bishop to where it should have been in the first place, which was e2. So e2 is the better move there. Otherwise, no other issues in the opening. Let's see. Yeah, all of this is fine. So pawn at h3. This is like, I mean, the reason why some people are afraid to castle in Bughouse, let's be honest. People
I was going to ask, is castling bad?
No,
We've
it's
been told
not.
it's bad.
That's a myth. That's a myth. That's
Oh.
a big legend. Don't listen to
Well,
anyone who
anything I know.
says it's bad. I promise you,
Okay.
castling is good. You want to castle pretty much every game.
Okay.
It's usually king side, sometimes queen side works, but that's more rare. So pawn h3, not something
What
to
to
be
do about
feared. Yeah, but what to do about it, that's the big question. So number one thing that you want to do about it is try and do it before they do it. So maybe before you castled, you could have maybe gone pawn at h6.
Ooh,
So that's one
that's
idea.
clever.
So that's what I usually do.
Do it to them first.
Do it to them
I
first.
was thinking pawn to h3 defensive.
Oh, no. Well, no, that works too. Sometimes you can go pawn h3. So, like, but right there, you didn't have the chance. You castled and they immediately did it. But let's say they didn't, then yeah, pawn h3 sometimes works as long as you're not being attacked on, like, g3 or something like that. But,
Okay.
So, before you castled, maybe pawn at h6 if you had one was a good idea, just because
Yeah,
a lot of the time I will try to attack before them. That was one of, like, the main takeaways, I guess, of today will be, like, try and attack before they attack. That's always what you want to be thinking is, how can I attack? How can I attack? And you always want to do it unless there's a reason you can't. And except you don't want to make pointless attacks. Like, remember when I said, like, pawn at h6, like, if you're not castled, it's a bluff? Don't do that. Don't be that person who just, like, randomly drops and loses pieces when it doesn't lead you anywhere. So attack where it makes sense, like, where you can actually gain some sort of positional advantage. But anyways, so specifically pawn at h3, what to do when it already happens, because that happens all the time, is when they take... I'm just trying to get there. So you place pawn at g2. That's a great option. Even better option, if you have it, knight at f4. That's the main thing you want to do.
I looked at knight to f4. What do I then do if they go pawn to g5? Or is that okay because they're creating weaknesses?
Well, there'll be a lot of situations...
Oh wait, then I take the free bishop.
Yeah, you take if they go pawn at g5, you take the free bishop. I thought you were going to say g4, because they'll go pawn at g4 sometimes to defend the bishop. So in that situation, you just take, and then if you have another knight, you can rinse and repeat with knight at f4 again. Or, a lot of the time, their knight will still be on f6. In this case, it was on e4, but a lot of the time, you can just go knight g5 with the knight that is already on f3. If that makes sense.
Knight g5 after bishop takes h3.
Yeah. You could,
if the knight's
yeah. You could, if you don't have a knight to place on f4, you can also just, like, a lot of the time they won't have a lot of material at this point, like, to try and keep the bishop there. So you can just go really quickly knight g5 to attack the bishop. You want them to take your rook on f1. That is the goal. If you can get them to take that rook on f1, or in other situations f8 if you're black, right? That is so great, because you just go queen takes. Now your queen is nicely up against, like, with your king there, and completely keeping your whole, like, castle area safe. Like, there's not really a way for them to get an attack, because they have no diagonal on the h3 to c8 line anymore. And you just, yeah, you want to have them get rid of that bishop, basically. So if they take on f1, that's great, or if they retreat the bishop, that's great too. And then you can place pawn at g2 after. But if you obviously can't do that for whatever reason, like you don't have a knight, or in this case their knight's on e4, so you can't go knight g5, then yes, pawn at g2. So they take, you take, and then what you want to do is, after a move like pawn at g4, is move king g1. Is that what you did? No. So you took on e4, which is bad, because then they get two pawns attacking your f3 square now. So still there, even after that, I would have gone king g1, because the idea is if they take the knight and you take, they're not going to, but maybe if they're not the best player, they will take f3, and then you can take with your bishop, and you're so safe, right? Because now your bishop's defending your g2 and h1 squares, and like knight at h3 isn't a threat, because you can go king h1, and they don't have pawn at g2 because your bishop covers that with it being on f3. So you wanted to go king g1 there. So I'm just going to keep going forward. Now you've played knight f4. Is this okay? Are you kind of able to follow along with me doing it on here? Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, then you took. So they took on f3. That was really good for them. For you, I mean.
For them.
Not for them. But then...
that was really good.
That was good for them. No, sorry. That meant for you. That's pretty decent. So then after pawn takes f3 instead of king takes, I would have just once again king g1. Because the idea is you want to be up time so that you can say, like, don't give any pieces. Then maybe they go, like, knight d4, and then you try and get a counterattack with something like pawn at h6. A lot of the time, the way to defend yourself is to make a worse attack that they can ignore, so they don't have time to attack you. If that makes sense. So you want to, like, right there, if you go king g1 and they go, like, knight takes d4, right, the pawn that's hanging there, then they play a move like pawn at g2, and you just say, partner, don't give a rook, and then you ignore it, and you just go on about your day and make your own attack.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of the time you have to actually just, like, ignore or get comfortable with having a lot of pieces all up in your business, and then you can just make your own attack, and hopefully, you know, as long as they don't have the initiative, you're going to be doing completely fine, if that makes sense. So, yeah, we'll keep going.
I'll try to do this.
Yeah, so just don't bring your king out, I guess, is the main thing. Like, king g1 was really safe for, like, at least 3 or 4 moves there.
Okay.
So then they played knight out, and then, like, yeah, pawn at g2 is good. Well, I wouldn't have played pawn at g2 because if you take with the knight, they have a lot of threats. Like they have like knight at h3, king h1, rook at g1 takes, knight takes f2 checkmate. So you don't really want your, like, a weird rule. Here's another weird rule of thumb is you want their knight on your g2 square, if that makes sense. If you're castled and their knight is on g2, that's good. It's actually keeping you safe. You ignore it. You go on about your day. But if your knight's on g2, then you're kind of suffocating yourself because it's not defending h3 or f3, and your king's getting kind of stuck down on g1 and h1, so it's not great. So I guess those are just some basic things to remember. It's just like with defending castling, because that's, you know, you want to make sure that it happens so much. So yeah, like knight g5 or knight at f4 to defend against pawn at h3, and then just taking the material and moving your king back down is like another thing to remember. So yeah. I'm gonna see if there's anything else major. Yeah, so there's not a whole lot to say other than that. I can look at the other board. I think everything. So here's like a main attack that I do a lot because it's actually funny. I was talking about how in like the London system, because I think that's what White played against you, Anna-Maja, if I'm right. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So that's an attack I'll often do, is the bishop at g3 to get like dark square, and then I just start putting pawns on e5 and trying to get to c7 slowly by making my way through your bishop and queen and all that. So that's like a big thing. So it's kind of interesting that you played pawn at g4 and they played pawn at e5. That's where I'm at right now. Just so you can follow
it's
along.
because so they were pre-moving and I was really bothered by that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw this at you, and obviously he pre-moved the pawn e5. So.
But yeah, pawn at g4 is not even a bad move because if they move their knight to g5, you can start doing that like whole knight at h4 thing and get an attack, and then pawn at f3 after rook to g1. And if they ever take on f7, you just need to know how to keep safe with the whole self-castling thing I talked about, or going king f8. You just gotta watch out for things like pawn at h6 if your king's on f8 in those situations. But yeah, that's a little too deep to go without being able to see it on the board. So anyways, you took the knight, that's great. They took the queen, and then you took the pawn. All good.
Yeah.
Like, this is a good position for you. So yeah, you went pawn at g4, that's really good. If you had a bishop at g4 would have been better, but I don't remember if you did.
Oh yeah, I did. I actually did, but I wasn't sure. Yeah,
so I would go bishop at g4 and not h5, and the reason is because after you go bishop at h5, they go queen to g3 and attack g7, which is not a huge deal because you can go rook g8 if they take, but it's still like a weakness that now they have another piece attacking in case they did want to do something there later. So just bishop at g4 blocks that right away. And then if they take your knight, like sometimes they will just like hang their queen and like take 2 pieces or 3 pieces for a queen. So they might have just taken like f6 then e7, but you want that because you want less pieces attacking d6, because that's your big weakness in this position is d6.
Okay.
d6 and g7, but they're clearly trying to like attack d6 with the whole bishop on f4 thing. So yeah, you placed pawn at. So bishop there would have been a bit better because then you get initiative on the queen. You can maybe make some attacks. And then let's see what happened next.
Right.
So pawn at f3, really, really good. So they moved queen to d2, which was really good for them. Because now they're so safe on the queen side because of their bishop defending like e2 and all that. Once they went to d1, it's hard to continue the attack, right? So like the best way to continue the attack there, let's see what you did. Oh, you moved your knight. So I wouldn't have done that. Okay, so tell me your thought. I had a
knight, bishop, and pawn, and I was like, what do I put there? Because I know like it's such a nice square, but I have too many options.
So sorry, when you say put there, which square are you referring to?
G2.
G2. Okay, so no, that was good. No, definitely knight check. That was the best move. What you could have done was take their bishop on f4, just removing some of that pressure from your queen side.
Oh.
That's one idea, right? Or, which is what I would have done, is create a counterattack. So remember, you don't need to care about pieces too much. So your knight on f6, you want them to take that because that removes some of the pressure from d6, and after you capture, bishop takes f6. Now you're also defending g7, your other weakest square. So you're actually defending both of your weakest squares by them taking f6. c7 has less pressure on it, and g7 is defended by your bishop, so it's actually good for you. And knight for a pawn is not a big deal in doubles chess, so that's no worry there. So I wouldn't have moved the knight. I would have placed pawn at b4. That's what I would have done there. to try and move that
Okay.
knight. And there's a few reasons behind this. Is one, if they move the knight, you have knight at e4, because you said you had a knight, right? Knight at e4, and if they take with the bishop, queen takes queen, king takes, and then knight takes e4 check, and you have the initiative, because you're attacking and they're in check. Or if they don't move the knight, the more likely option, because moving it would be really bad for them. If they, for instance, like, I don't know, take your knight or place pawn at d6, which is what I would have done as black. So you go pawn at b4, they go pawn at d6, trying to counterattack your attack. Your attack's a bit better than theirs. So you take the knight, they take c7.
Yeah.
You can just take c7, and then you're still safe for a little while. Like, even if they go knight at, like, b5 and then knight at c7 and you go king f1, your biggest worry then is, like, pawn at h6, sorry, after your king's at f8. And, sorry, I think I said f1, my bad. It's been so long since I've done, like, analyses. Like, I'm hoping I'm not saying too many incorrect coordinates.
Don't worry,
I'm a little,
don't
like,
worry.
rusty. It's been, like, a couple years since I played chess regularly.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah, so, like, if they had, like, knight at c7, right, after you moved your queen, and you go king f8, and then they go pawn at h6, then you can just let them take on g7 and say no queen, because you have your knight defending h5, so they kind of have a knight check, and you have pawn defending f5, so if your king's on in g7, you're actually kind of safe. They could take your knight on f6 and then go knight at h5, but your bishop's covering g7 then, so you're kind of chilling. You're fine. So
Yeah,
it's so
okay.
much calculation to know that you would be fine if you went to g8 with your king. So that's why it's, like, kind of complicated. But the idea that you can take that's the more general crash course is just attack harder than they attack. Because the reason why your
Yeah,
attack is
yeah.
better is, like, pawn at b4, if they don't move the knight, which is the likely option, right? You take, and
Yeah.
if they take pawn takes c3, you get knight at b2, and they go king c1, and you have bishop, you move your bishop, or place a new one, if you have one, on a3, and you have this whole crazy attack starting where you're basically going to checkmate them eventually. Because then you have threats like a new knight on c4 and taking the queen on d2 with check after they go king b1 to try and get out of the pin, and it's just like, it's a nightmare for them. So
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I can tell, like, the patterns. Like, it all makes
yeah,
sense.
it's like a lot of
now.
patterns. And, like, pawn at b4, if you take and they take with the queen, then you just go, like, it's crazy. Like, go knight to e4, and now the queen can't go to e1 to defend f2, so you're about to take there. You're attacking the queen and d2, so if they move the queen to, like, b3, then a queen checkmates for you on d2, because they're just, like, totally getting demolished on the dark squares. You always got to be looking for, like,
Right.
light and dark square weaknesses, but yours is better, because yours would be directly attacking their king a little bit more, right? Whereas theirs is attacking your queen a little bit more, being on c7, if that makes sense. Whereas you're going to be attacking b2 mainly, b2 and c3, which is more their king. So, yeah. And then after, like, they just basically did the whole plan of placing pawn on d6, and it was just, their initiative, I think, was just a bit too strong to get a counterattack at that point, unless you had a couple rooks to place on d1 and try and, like, do something
no.
here. But even here, like, with bishop at b4, it's like, I wouldn't say you're lost. Like, it's difficult, but, so they go knight check, you take, that's like the best move, that's really good. You take their queen, and yeah, then your partner got checkmated, but here you're actually doing completely fine. So you eventually got that attack I was talking about, which is where the king's getting attacked on b2, and then you have, like, knight at d2 checkmate coming. And I guess you just need to be safe on both boards and play a little faster. But honestly, it was a really good effort. Like, you got a really good position at the end of the game.
Yeah, so because my opponent was pre-moving almost all of his moves, like, he was playing really, really fast. So, like, at this, like, in the final position, he was just sitting and waiting.
Yeah.
He had, like, 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I guess that's the main thing with playing against, like, I guess people that are pretty high rated. Like, they're going to be moving really fast, so it's kind of hard to keep up.
Yeah, but I felt like I had a chance this game. The attack in the end was really nice.
Definitely had a chance. It's just that the time was the only issue at that point. Like,
yeah,
if you guys had played all the exact same moves you played, but were up time, you might have been able to win. I don't know how many pieces you had in this last position, but I think if you were up time, like, you would have been completely fine.
Yeah, I had a knight and bishop, so I think it's like a forced mate almost. Almost.
It is with a couple. No. Actually, you have, like, pawn at a4, king takes, the knight at b6 ideas. So you would have had mate with one pawn.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So you just, because then if he goes, like, king b5, you just go, like, bishop at a4 and it's checkmate. So yeah, you actually had mate with one pawn in this position. plus the pieces you had.
Wow.
That's really good. Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah,
So
that's really
it was a
cool.
good game. It's just like time obviously comes with experience, being able to play faster and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it was
but
a good
like
game.
the things that I'm hearing right now, like it helps a lot because like it's exactly what I'm thinking about during the game and why I spend so much time. So now that I know these kind of details, like it definitely helps me to speed up. It's not really noticeable in this game, but
No, that's
yeah,
good.
we're getting there, I think.
Should we try another one then? Because we were also being slow because I was defending and using all of my time trying not to get checkmated.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and you were very safe as well if you had just, instead of bringing your king to f3, if you had
King
gone
off.
down to g1, you would have been, like,
Okay.
completely fine as long as they didn't have, like, queens and rooks and things like that.
Okay. No, we'll definitely keep that in mind.
Like, that's, one major thing I would just say that will make castling a lot easier and a lot less scary is as long as they don't get a queen or a rook, you're pretty much safe always.
Okay.
Being castled, as long as you don't take on g2 and let them get all those knight checks and whatnot. So
Alright.
yeah, just if you're
I'll keep
castled,
that
you
in
want to
mind,
make
definitely.
sure that you say like no queen, no rook. Don't give those things if you think they're gonna do like pawn at h3 ideas, and then you're safe.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Awesome. All right, let's go to the next
We'll
game.
keep that in mind.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'll send out a challenge.
All right, I'm deafening. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm trying here. It's hard to keep up, and there's so much things to talk about. I'm trying to figure out which one's the best ones to bring up and all that. But like I said, it's the first time we've done a stream like that, so thank you for bearing with us on figuring out how the whole format goes. All right, I should be following them. Let me just make sure. Oh no, I'm not. Okay, now I am. There we go. Okay, what did I miss? The boards are messed up too. Beep. Better? It's not better. That's better, right? Oh gosh. It's not better. Alright, we're missing some of the game, but we'll rewind a little. Alright, there. What happened? Let's see. Okay, very safe opening. Something not bad to do if you're kind of... Oh. That's not great, though. The only problem with like these kind of openings is like because you're so defensive, they can attack. Like they did. Yeah, this is really bad situation. I'm trying to figure out exactly if they could have defended it. Like here... Here, I feel like this was like where they could have maybe done something like knight g4 and then taken on e7 with the queen. So maybe that would have been better. Because now we're already in this whole mess, and it's hard to get out of a mess like this when you're already in one, you know what I mean? Like, it's much harder to fix it once it's already happened than to prevent. It's easier to prevent than it is to fix. Does that make sense? Much easier to prevent. Okay, so I see the counterattack trying to happen. So right here, ignore what your opponent's doing. That's what she's doing, and she's doing it well. No knight for e7, no rook for g7, and she'll be safe, but they're down so much time that you have to assume they're going to get those pieces, so you have to go knight at f5 here. Defend both of those squares. And then if they play like pawn at g7, you have to take it too, because you also have to be worried about that. Or, even better, if you have two knights, you can place knight at g6, so that way you can ignore it and just take it when they capture. And then if they place another pawn, you bring the knight back out, and then there's no threat unless they get a rook, which they might, because like time is the biggest issue here. But obviously, we can't just say play faster, because that comes with experience. So it's more, we're trying to see what we could do once we're in these situations, since they're likely to happen. Seeing how to, we're going to have to learn how to fix it before we can... Well, hopefully we can learn how to fix it and prevent it, and then time matters a little less, and you can get faster the more you know, so that knowing how to prevent it, they can play it faster so they're up time in these situations. So as you can see, they didn't prevent against the knight at e7 threat that I was talking about and got checkmated. So we're going to talk about this game. I didn't really get to have a look at what was happening on the other board, though, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Hello?
Not quickly.
Oh,
we decided to give you some more material today.
Ah, yes. There's actually,
That was horrifying.
there's just a couple things that if you had done it differently, it would have been completely fine. So it's actually pretty easy, this one. We don't have to like talk super in depth. I think
Okay.
I think the explanation will come easily. Give me
That was so
one
scary.
moment to open it. Here we go. Scary, you said?
They were, both of us were just in horrible positions talking about panicking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're, like I was saying to them, like it's hard, obviously, to just move faster because a lot of those situations can be prevented if you're up time. But we're gonna learn how to fix it if you get into the position. But more importantly, we're also gonna learn how to prevent it so you don't get into the position.
That would be great.
So yeah, and then if you know those things, hopefully once you know them, you can do them faster, and then you just everything works out well because you'll be faster and you'll be knowing what to do. And okay, let's go from
Sounds good.
#chess perspective first.
Okay.
So you're playing a very passive opening. That's the first thing I'm going to say, which isn't necessarily bad. It's almost something that I would recommend to players a little newer to Bughouse, just because you prevent sack sitting, and sack sitting is complicated, as I talked about, with needing to know how to bring your bishop out and make space and self-castling, and there's a lot, right? So yeah, preventing against that and just getting the basics can be pretty good if you're new, like sort of newer to the game.
Okay.
And trying to learn how to play safe and whatnot, which is a good thing to start with. But there was an issue that happened on move when they went, let me see, pawn to e5. So we're gonna that was where things got a little bit, you see that move, pawn to e5, and then you take, and then went bishop e7. So this is a bit of a rough time. Okay. So they went pawn at d6, let me see, and then you took. So at this point, it's not even that you shouldn't have taken it. It's kind of hard to do anything about it at this point.
How do we not get it?
How do we not get here is more important. We're gonna figure out also how to fix it. So let's say you are in this position. How to fix it is maybe bishop at c5 and then queen takes e7. Once they take, or queen takes c7 once they take, and if they place another pawn on d6, then you take twice with both the bishops, and then if they play things like knight at b5, you do queen a5 check to try and get a bit of time to fix the position more. Okay. So that's
and I have a knight, so
you had a knight,
F5,
so
I have a knight and a pawn. Yeah, so is knight to f5 the same sort of idea, or is that different?
Knight to f5, it's not as great because it doesn't defend. It's not you can. The bishops being connected just makes it a lot easier to recapture with a piece that continues to defend d6. If they take on e7, you gotta take with the queen. But yeah, I think knight at f5 is a good move too. If that's what you have in hand. But the only problem is then if they take on e7, great for you. You take with the queen, try and castle as fast as possible and hope for the best. But if they take on c7, then you run into some issues with them rinse and repeating. Because if they the difference with the knight is when you recapture on d6 with the knight after the whole bishop takes, then pawn takes, then knight takes. Yeah. Now if they place pawn on e5, if you had a bishop on d6, you could just capture e5 twice because you've got two defenders, but your knight doesn't defend c5 or e5. So that's why it's a bit more challenging. So, yeah. Great. In this position, I might have almost even just castled. I know it sounds weird, but after pawn at d6, just castling and just ignore all the problems and hope for the best. Because after that, if they take your bishop, you just take, or if they take your pawn, you just take, and then you're threatening their bishop on c4. And the main thing is if you're castled, the reason why you did that is to prevent them from, once your queen is on c7, threatening you with things like knight at b5. Because the problem is then they capture your queen with check. But if your king's castled, that threat doesn't exist. So it's a little less scary. The bigger thing would be then that they start to attack on f6. But your hope is that you're up time and you can take all the pieces and get safe before they get enough to hurt you too badly. Okay. But anyways, let's see how we could have prevented it, because that would be a lot easier, right?
A little bit easier.
A lot easier than remembering all that stuff. So I think the key move was, where you placed pawn at h6? Yes. I would have gone knight g4 instead.
I placed a knight on g4 and moved my knight to g4.
You move it. So the whole idea is that you need to predict that they're trying to kind of get this whole e5 plan happening. That's the reason why. You have to think, why did my opponent make this move? It's because the move bishop to g5, you have to think, why did they make that move? It's because they're trying to get some pin going on and dark square advantages. And one of the main squares you need to defend is always g7 and f7, right? And f6 and f3 kind of. So because they're kind of the way to get to g7 is through f6 or h6. So you need to defend those squares a little bit as well, to prevent your real weakness square is getting attacked. So anyways, like if you had gone knight to g4 and then they take on, it forces them basically to take on e7, right? Unless they just retreat their bishop, but that's kind of passive and strange. So they're probably going to take on e7, and then your queen takes, and then all of a sudden the threats that were there before with like pawn to e5, it's just too slow. Like, they might still want to try and get to d6, but it just takes them too much time, because after they go e5, that basically is a free move. There's nothing being attacked. Your knight's not there anymore. You have nothing that's actually directly needing your attention right away. So you have time to make your own attack, which is always what you're looking for, is how can I get the initiative so that they stop trying to attack me? Like, that's the best way to think about it, is how can I attack them so that they stop attacking me? And then you just got to make sure the attacks you do make sense. Like, those are the main things. Right. So anyways, knight to g4, they take the bishop, you take with the queen, you're already attacking f2. You have ideas like pawn at e3 if they don't castle. So, but if they castle, then you have ideas like knight at f4, because their bishop's not there anymore. So they have some dark square, like, opening, like, things for you to do, basically. Okay. So that's like the main way you could have avoided that, I think, was knight to g4. Right, or even, and this might have even been a better move, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, knight to h5.
Knight to h5.
Because then if they take their bishop, you can just move your knight to f, like after you capture with the queen and they make another move, you can move your knight to f4, and then you're attacking g2, and you have...
Okay.
And then you basically used your own piece to make an attack, which is pretty awesome. You didn't need to place a new one, or whatever, and you get to save material, kind of. So yeah, that's the main thing I would have said for that game. It's pretty much that easy. There's nothing more to say. I'm just looking at Anna-Maja's board. So I think the only real big mistake you made was bishop at b7. Because you never want to attack rooks. I know it sounds like that's kind of a bit of a blunt statement, I'm not gonna lie. Like, rooks don't really matter. They're probably the piece that matters the least in Bughouse. Unless your partner needs a rook to, like, get a really good attack or checkmate, you just don't care about rooks. Like, they don't matter at all, really.
This is Anna-Maja's game.
So, there you go, right? Like, this is, like, the perfect game for you then. You just don't even need to care about them. No worries. Yeah. But just the whole bishop at b7 isn't a threat, because your opponent's thinking, I don't care about my rook anyways, whatever, have it, right? Like, I'm gonna get this bishop, which is honestly almost a better piece than a rook in Bughouse. It's more useful in more situations, so rooks matter less, so don't really attack them. I know you're also attacking c6, but they just play pawn at d7, and they're not having any sort of problem there. So because you played that really passive, we'll call it, move of, like, attacking a piece that doesn't really lead you anywhere, they got a better attack with the knight at f4, right? Because they're also attacking your knight on c3, so if they end up taking that after you go rook g1, pawn at e2, and then they're attacking your queen, and it's a bit of a nightmare. So what you should have done instead of bishop at b7 was just develop and play normally, like d4, playing the move d4.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that was your only mistake there, is you just played a really, really passive move and let them get the initiative. There's nothing really else to mention. So just, you got to make sure that you always think, like, oh, if I make a passive move, do they have an attack they can get on me right away? And then you took the rook as well, you should have instead maybe done bishop f1, because that defends against the whole pawn at e2 thing that I was talking about after they take your knight on c3. And if you didn't have a bishop, then it's sort of you're probably going to lose your queen, and you have to go rook g1. So it's not great.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all for that game, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just one thing, and then it went all downhill. It's really tricky.
Yeah, that's what happens a lot, is, like, you gotta try and find those situations of how can I attack and how can I prevent attacks. And then if you miss one, it's like, how do I fix it? But fixing is a lot harder than preventing it, so it's just, instead, you just gotta always think, like, okay, let me develop, let me play normally, let me just make sure that my bishop is defending f4 so the knight can't be placed there, and then your knight on f3 is preventing knight at h4. And also, knight at h4 is another bluff. Just go rook g1 and ignore it.
Yeah.
In general, if people place, like, knight on h4, h5, it's often bluffs unless they can get a bishop to h3 or h6 to get, like, a pin after they take on g2. It's very situational, but a lot of the time you don't have to worry about it, is what I'm trying to say. Like, don't worry about this, but knight at f4 is a lot worse. That's why I definitely want to play, like, d4 first. Knight at f4 is just, like, attacking e2. It's just a bit of a nightmare, so, yeah, that's it.
All good.
Great. Should we do another game then?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, that was fortunately a really...
Alright, I'm trying, guys. I have to switch back to live chess. Hold on. My gosh, my face is like hurting from laughing. Or not laughing, smiling. It's a lot of fun, honestly. Let me just make... Okay, I am following them. Should be able to see now. There you go. Oh gosh, now the boards are all messed up again. Oh gosh, this is a lot of mess, but that's kind of where we are. Like, it's still in beta, the other one, so it's kind of hard to have the boards ready for you guys, but I'm trying. You know, at least I'm trying. I hope you're able to follow along a little bit, at least, like with my ideas of what I'm trying to say. This is almost reminiscent of my Doubles for Dummies sort of series I did, where we would go over games and like talk to like chess players. A lot of the time they were chess players learning Bughouse. I don't know if you remember that series, so it reminds me of that, except it's a lot more complicated because we're trying to analyze the games afterwards rather than just playing them. Alright, so far this is a really good opening. Like, big chillin' right here. Yeah, who cares about that pawn? I would have probably defended it. Who knows? Like, rook e8's kind of pointless move because it doesn't really threaten anything. Like, knight at b4 would have been kind of nice if we had it. Do we have a knight? Or even just, like, I don't know. We'll think about it. King h8 was the correct move, but this is fine. It's just that it's so passive because now pawn at h7, they just start like annoying you. You don't want to be, nobody wants to be annoyed. Yeah, pawn at e2. Ooh, what happened on this board? I didn't get a chance to see. However, this knight got to e1 was no bueno. Also, the rooks need to be connected so that in this situation you can go knight f3. And because the rooks aren't connected and we didn't develop, because it's just like chess, you got to develop your pieces and connect your rooks, right? That's sort of a rule of thumb. Now we don't have that option. Now we have to move our king, which is not what you want to do. You don't want to have to move your king so much in this sort of situation, right, where you can't get back to safety really quickly. I'm just noticing a lot of defending and just not enough attacking, but it's not totally lost yet. Now it is. Wait, now it's kind of getting lost on this board here. I would have, like, the problem is, like I said, a lot of the time you ignore attacks to make worse attacks. And this is one of those situations where there is a worse attack. I think you gotta go, like, king g1 almost there, and then your queen defends against the promotion. If you block, then the promotion is defended, right? Oh, wow. This is a very interesting game. There is so much happening. Okay. Not totally unsalvageable, actually, if we were up time, but we're down a minute, unfortunately. And being down even just a second can make you lose a game, so a minute is kind of unsavable because you can't get the pieces you need to make a counterattack. If your opponents know what they're doing, they'll just sit and wait and just totally demolish you slowly, picking away your position, and then you can never get the pieces you need because you don't have the time to get them. But like I said, we can't really focus on being faster. We have to think of what we can do with the time we have, and knight at h6, that's the right move. It's the only move that you can make to defend this situation. And they're going to do things like pawn at f6, which is a bit of a nightmare. There's no real counterattack here because their knights are defending these squares from being, like, pawns check, the queen too, right? And here, like, the only way would be, like, pawn at d7 and then, like, bishop at c5 and take, and then they take, and then you take, and you get discover attacks. And if they move back here, you can move the pawn and do, or, like, take the pawn probably. Or move it. Yeah, move it, and then you can get similar attacks to what actually Black was doing to White in on this board. You guys can see my cursor, I hope, otherwise I'm just saying gibberish. Alright, so yeah, that's not a bad move. There's not a whole lot you can do, really, so here, at least you're threatening queen at h1. You can take the queen with check, and move this knight away from attacking f6 and putting too much pressure. And then if they place a pawn, you take with the bishop, they take, and then you take with the queen, and you're actually pretty safe. You're actually super safe. So this is a good plan. The only problem is they play f6 first because we're not done. If we were up time, we could say don't give a pawn, but they're gonna get that pawn. So then you have to take, and then you have to give your queen basically, and then they've got the knight here, and then if you take, they place pawns. The knight's threatening this bishop. The knight's threatening to take here with check. It's just a bit of a nightmare. Yeah, so I'm just a little confused why Anna-Maja hadn't tried to go for an attack. I need to check what happened here, because that's what obviously it's kind of no point if you're not going to get the pieces, but they got so many pieces, like, maybe it was possible, right? And #Chess actually did a really good job at staying safe, despite the rough situation, so it could have been possible to get a win if the opponents were silly enough to not say sit. Like, they maybe there was a chance that we could have gotten, like, pawn at d7 ideas. But a lot of the time, you won't, because they'll just say sit, so. Alright, let's go. Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Alright. Interesting game.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a messy situation, but let's go over it. Let me just open it up. Definitely a few things we can go over. Where do I click here? One sec. I have to switch to play again. Alright. It won't let me view the partners board for some reason. It's like...
Oh.
That's strange.
1 second. Let me see if I can... Why am I spectating this game? Okay. Uh-oh. I might have lost the game here. I'm spectating someone called Hey Johnny, and he's playing Blitz. I don't know what happened.
You're doing well. I just a link to the game. I don't know if that helps.
Yes. It might actually help. Thank you.
I don't know if it will show Anna-Maja's.
Well, probably not, but...
Let me see if I can get it working. Yeah, it's not gonna show it, is it? Oh, gosh. I'm trying to think. Like, all my tabs closed, too. Like, all the tabs I had open of the games. Did they just randomly close when I reloaded? It's kind of unfortunate.
Or maybe if you go open games? Or are there no open games at all?
There's only that one that I said, the Hey Johnny person. Okay. I will just go over one by one then with the link. Oh, wait, I found it. There's no way. Let's go. Okay. I found it. I pressed back enough times and it worked. Alright, I have the game open. Thank goodness. All is saved. Alright, so let me just make it so that everyone can see. There we go. Alright, so I'm just starting at the beginning. #Chess is playing black here. And so yeah, passive opening. But here we didn't run into the whole bishop g5 situation. You got to castle. That's good. Yeah, so I was basically complimenting you guys on your openings right up until
Land on h7.
when you went bishop f6. Up to when you guys were at like the moment of like what the last move you had played was knight d5. I was like, oh yeah, their openings are so great. Like, this is great. So yeah, really good job there. That was awesome. Like, you both had super safe, solid positions right out of the opening. So that was great. You did hang your pawn on h7. Not a big deal. Not a big deal, actually. But I was saying, like, maybe before that, instead of bishop f6, you could have maybe even gone, like, f5, honestly. f5 and start attacking e4, like, pawn to d4 ideas. Because you're really safe. Okay. And, like, another thing with castling is sometimes you really want to go as white f4 or as black f5, because it lets you be a little safer, so that if they ever attack h6 or like try and put a pawn on g7 to threaten rook at h8, your king can go and run to f7. So you just give yourself more room, which is always great. But there are situations where you don't, because you're worried about pawn at g6. But in this situation, it would have been really great because you block off the bishop from attacking h7. So f5, good move, would have been in that situation. But let's keep going. So they took, not a big deal. You could have gone, I would have gone king h8. It's usually where you want to go, not f8.
I was not sure which. Why is h8 better?
Because your rook defends g8 in that situation, so they can't go rook at g8.
And I don't have to worry about g6 at all, or am I worried about that in any case?
You're not worried about g6 at all, because they would have to use a lot of moves to be able to attack. They'd have to go like pawn at, then they'd have to take, and then they get knight at g6. So you get a couple moves to stay safe, and you can always defend it if it does happen. But yeah, no, it's not a worry. So you are you saying like if king on h8, like worrying about things like knight getting to f7
g6
and
at
things?
some stage in the future.
Oh,
or I wasn't looking at f7 even.
Because like one idea for them would be knight at g6, right, and then you take and then knight at f7 to get your queen. But in those situations, you just take all the pieces, and if you're up time, you can just like get safe. Yeah, a lot of the time you just take like 3 pieces for a queen's really good, so you don't really care as long as it doesn't get you into too much trouble. And your king being on h7 wouldn't be a big deal. You can just probably stay safe as long as your partner holds material is the main thing there.
Right.
So, yeah, just king h8 would have been better so that your rook defends g8, so you don't worry about things like rook at g8, king e7, then pawn at e5, and then they're getting in on d6. That dark square, like I was talking about, happens a lot in the London system, is like the bishop will go to f4. In this case, it's on h2, and it'll be like putting pressure on your c7 diagonal sort of thing. So
right.
after that, they retreated the bishop, trying to do like knight at h7, I guess. Not really a big threat. Okay, here we go. And then, yeah, bishop takes... You went bishop at g8.
A little bit worried about everything happening on that side.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I would have gone, like, pawn at f5.
Pawn to f5.
Yeah, just to, like,
okay,
block...
I have a bishop and
rather
a knight.
than defending where they're attacking, just... Oh, you had a bishop and a knight. So then bishop at f5. Like, rather than defending where they're attacking, you can block it, like block off that diagonal, because then if they capture you, you recapture with the pawn, right, on f5, and then they don't have a line of sight there anymore. So in this situation, they can like annoy you with things like pawn at h7. It's just kind of annoying, you know. And if they like place knight at h7 after you block on f5, and they take and you take, right, and h7's like not defended, then you can just like go king g8 and knight takes f6, queen takes f6, and you're pretty safe. It's not that bad.
Okay.
So that's that situation.
Great.
And then, yeah, they just kept... like, your king's pretty suffocated at the point where you're, like, taking on e7 with the knight. It's not that bad, though, because you're not, like, getting mated on h7 with a knight or something like that, so you're fine. And then you were defending...
I did say at some stage, I was like, earlier you said we should have space for our king, and my king has zero space at all, but I only realized it's like 5 moves later.
Yeah, thankfully in this situation, it's not actually that bad. You're pretty safe. After bishop at d6, this is where I'd be looking for counterattacks, which is hard in this position, but it's not impossible. You'd have to force the situation a lot, though. You'd have to do something crazy, like pawn at b3 and then bishop at a4, or... I don't know, like maybe knight at b4 and just sack a knight, try and take on d3, and then get something going on the light square diagonal with something like bishop at b5 or pawn at c4, and just like basically annoying their queen. Their king is so safe that the only thing you can do here is annoy their queen, but because your king is really safe and your queen is really safe, annoying their queen is the best option, because at least they have to deal with that unless they want to lose a queen.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, queens are good. You want to also make sure that you get an attack out of it, though. You don't just want to give them 3 pieces for a queen. So just make sure you do it like the right way rather than just I don't know, sacking too much. But anyways, so the main thing that I want to talk about, actually, because I was looking at I joined the game just a little late and I missed how we got knight e1 on Anna-Maja's board. That was a bit of an oopsie right there. After pawn at g4, you just ignore it. You don't care about that knight. You go do something like pawn at f6 is good. You want to create, like, the one thing I was noticing is there was just no counterattacks happening. So you were just kind of letting your opponents harass you a little.
I didn't have any pieces. So that was the problem.
Oh, you didn't have pieces. Okay.
Yeah, so I was asking Rebecca for a pawn, like, at the start, but I think she was she was asking, should I sacrifice a knight for it, and like we weren't sure, so then we were like, okay, never mind, and then I ended up having nothing and then it was a bit hard.
But you're not playing really passively as well, so we were just playing chess basically.
We were playing chess, and that was a bit difficult at some point. But I don't blame Rebecca for it. It's just really hard.
No, and I mean, I honestly, yes, I would have just sacked the knight for the pawn. Like the knight that's on d5, I would have taken on e3. You're also down time though, so it's kind of risky to sack material since you're not going to be getting it back if your opponents just tell their partner to sit. So you have to make sure that if you lose the piece, is it a big deal? And taking the pawn, like in this specific situation, so it doesn't always apply, unfortunately, taking the pawn on e3 would have been fine because you're so totally safe. The knight doesn't really harm your partner, and the pawn's really good because if you can get that pawn in on f6, there's 2 problems in the situation. One is your knight's being attacked, and if you take, they go knight d4, or they're getting some attack on g2, and that's not fun with pawn at h3. So pawn at f6, if they ignore it, which is potential, right? They could go like queen d7. Then if you take on g7, you at least have knight at f6 ideas that they have to worry about, so they don't just... you don't want them only focusing on attacking you. At least they have something to be a little worried about. But if they take, then you get to go knight e5, and that's the main thing. So if you go pawn at f6 and they take with the queen, then knight e5 fixes all your problems because now your knight's not being attacked. Now their knight's not able to take d4 because your queen's still defending it. Now you're threatening taking on c6 at some point if their queen ever goes back down. You don't want to just take it, though, because then your really strong knight on e5's not there. You love having your knight there, right? Just like in chess, you like having your like pieces on squares where they're not really being attacked, like holes and all of that chess stuff. But the knight there is really strong because it also attacks the pawn that's attacking you on g4, and you can maybe capture back. And their queen's on f6, so if you capture back, you're capturing with the tempo and attacking the queen. So it just opens up a lot of really good ideas. So just like that would have been good, but since you didn't have the pawn. How we fix it is, I guess, you don't go knight e1 for sure. You probably just continue development, because the main thing that I was struggling with on your board was that your rooks weren't connected. So like in chess, you castle, you develop all your pieces in, you get your rooks connected. It's kind of the exact same in Bughouse, except you don't really need to worry about moving your queen. You don't need to move your queen to defend the rooks, but just knowing that if you moved the queen, that the rooks are connected, that's just good to have. For situations like what's about to happen. So like knight d2, just give the knight for a pawn, right? And maybe we can use the pawn on the other board to try and defend with like pawn at f5 or something like that. Because like I said, giving like a bishop or a knight for a pawn isn't always like, it's not that bad, as long as it doesn't harm your partner. So then we went knight e1, and you took the pawn. I would not have taken that pawn. I would have just tried to fix the problem that's about to happen, because their main threat is, like, you have to remember, this is, like, so important, is people in Bughouse don't care about rooks. So I'm guessing maybe what was going through your mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when they went bishop a6, you're probably like, oh, they're attacking my rook, whatever, right? So you kind of ignored it. But the problem was that's not what they were doing. that they were attacking e2. That's what they were thinking. They're like, oh, I want to put a pawn on e2. So they weren't even thinking about your rook. They don't care about your rook. So they had a bigger idea, which was pawn at e2. So maybe knight d3 to try and defend against it would have been better, and also to get your rook less suffocated, and also hopefully connect your next rook by going knight b3 to connect your rooks on the following move, and just not care about dropping your pawn on d4 with knight takes. Like, maybe just ignore that. But we went queen takes, and then they started the whole pawn thing. And that's where, because your knight was on b1, your rooks aren't connected. Because I was going to say, in this situation, knight d3, which you did end up playing on the next move, like, it works, because if your rooks were connected, you could just recapture after pawn takes f1. Rook takes f1, but because your knight was still undeveloped on b1, that option wasn't there. So that's kind of all that I really have to say for that one. It's just like, make sure you develop all your pieces, connect your rooks, just so that when these situations arise, you have a bit of a way out.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
it's so much, I know. Yeah. This is a bit tricky. So I think the main thing I was going to say for the rest of the game is it's kind of hopeless from there on out. But if your opponents aren't super pros, I guess, you could have counterattacked, and I noticed you never did. Like, let me see what you did. You went bishop at c5, which was really good, and then you took the queen, which was...
I tried.
Yeah, so that was all fine. Like, that was all not fine, but it happened. Like, I don't really know how to phrase it. Like, you were fine. You weren't getting mated because they didn't have a rook for e1. So you were fine. And then they took, and you went king e2. You probably, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm trying to see if there even was an opportunity for you to have a counterattack. And I'm not sure if there was. Like, I would have done king g1 instead of pawn at d3, if that's what you did. Yeah. Maybe that. Because then... I don't know. Then if they do the knight at e2, you can take, and then you can take the pawn on d2 after they capture your queen, and at least you connect your rook to your king. Yeah. And you get a little safer. But if you go king g1, you avoid knight at e3. So, and then they still can't promote because your queen defends d1. So king g1 was probably the only move in that situation. And then, just kind of, you got mated after that. There's not a whole lot you could do after that, unfortunately. But if you ever
Yes.
did, if you were up time and if you ever were able to get out of check, like by going king g1 and letting them take your queen and moving your knight to d2 and connecting your rook to your king and getting safe for like even just one move, sometimes that's all you need. You could have gotten a counterattack with things like pawn at d7 and like king takes, and then bishop at c5 would be the move. Because then they block with the pawn, you take with the pawn, and you just create like an attack that they can't ever stop being checked in. Because if you can even just get one move where you're not getting checked and you can keep checking your opponent, like sometimes you can even win in these really difficult situations.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Noted.
I don't know if that was helpful. I mean, it's kind of
it
a
definitely is.
tricky game.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's just like, yeah, there's so many things to look for. But I definitely feel more confident now. Like,
yeah, no, this is the
okay,
main
I still need
takeaway.
to speed up.
Yeah, no, speed will come with time. Speed will come with knowing what to do. But like knowing what to do in that situation is just develop all your pieces and don't focus on attacking their rooks when they don't care about their rooks. And don't think that they're attacking. Never think that they're attacking your rooks on purpose. Like unless your rook is gonna checkmate your partner if your partner's opponent gets it, like make sure that that's not why they're attacking it. But other than that, nobody wants your rook. I promise you, nobody wants any of your rooks ever. Like in Bughouse, really, unless it mates for their partner. So you can just always think, okay, if they're doing that, they're probably got some other trick up their sleeve, you know? Like that kind of mindset. Like always just think about them attacking you rather than them trying to get material, I guess.
It's so tricky to switch your mindset.
I know,
it's
so
just
different.
like they want to get material.
I know, it's like totally upside down town. So yeah, that's that game.
No, but it's been
it's
super
a lot of
helpful
fun.
tips.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you
Like
so
trying
much.
to get everything in our heads.
No, I mean, I hope some of what I said was like got through. I mean, it's so complicated that it can like it's really easy for a lot of the more detailed things to kind of like at least for me, they'll go over my head because it's so situationally based. But I feel like there's some good just general pointers that could be applied to a lot of situations, and that's kind of what matters. Is like in Bughouse, just learn the main basic patterns and the main basic defenses, and then they'll work in other situations too, and you don't even have to memorize that much. Like it comes together, I guess, is what I'm saying.
That's good to hear, that at some point it all come together.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the tips and for helping us out. I don't know if we'll be able to like consolidate all of this before a match tomorrow. We probably should have. We haven't even been practicing the most Bughouse, but we have stuff to look at now and to think about in the games.
No, I'm glad.
For sure.
Yeah, and thank you so much for
games, Rebecca, after this.
Sure, I think we should maybe practice a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good.
Perhaps. Hamzad, are you still playing in the World Bughouse chat? Well, I'm assuming.
Oh yes, I actually have my match tomorrow as well.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah,
Good
thank
luck.
you. You too. I hope you guys win.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we don't win, it's no reflection on your teaching skill. Not at all. It'll. Yeah, it's been good to have help. So thank you so much. You really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on your
Yes,
streams
thank
as well.
you.
Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you.
so,
Have an
so
amazing
much.
evening.
Yeah, take care. Take care, both of you. Take care. Thanks again.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Alright, chat. I know it was a bit of a hodgepodge all over the place stream, and I know that it was like some technical difficulties, as there always are on my stream. Sorry, my hair is like in my face and reflecting light, and I'm blind, but that's okay. I hope that some of that got through and made sense. I'm trying. It's like very complicated, and I've never really taught a ton of Bughouse before, so it's a little bit tricky, especially with not having the correct analysis board, and it's hard to show what I'm exactly doing without actually dropping the pieces. It's like you have to imagine it all in your head. Thankfully, they're both chess players, so I think they were able to follow along because they know coordinates and all that, right? But not everyone does, so I hope that I hope that some of my arrow drawing helped a bit, but it's hard, right? to analyze Bughouse, at least right now. Hopefully it'll get easier in the future. But still, it was so fun. They're both so lovely people, and It was a great time. We got to watch some of their games, we got to go over them, see what could have been done different, learn some of the basics, all that good stuff. So I'm going to raid them now, and you guys can continue watching them play and practice together. And thank you to everyone who watched the stream, joined in, followed, anyone new in chat. Appreciate you so much. And until next time, take care, everyone.